like a local.
Good morning, people, and welcome to the Municipal Airport Authority meeting of Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024, and call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Shawnee.
Here.
Here.
Hi.
All right. Approve the minutes of the regular meeting. I'm assuming everybody has got a copy of that and read them thoroughly.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve the airport vouchers totaling $366,202.84. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Shawnee. Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approve individual vouchers A through I. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made
Second.
and there's a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Shawnee.
Yes. Aye.
Osborne. Heckman.
Aye.
Capitan.
Aye. Number 5, receive June financial statements.
That is online if there's any questions, but everything is in order, as Mr. Berg likes to hear. So if you have any questions, Ken is online.
Mr. Chairman, Tana, any outliers, concerns, 6 months through the budget cycle? Anything?
For the operating account, no, there isn't. We took a good look at it after balance tax and accounting finalized the June, and for the first 6 months in the operating account, no, it actually looks really good. Expenses are down, and I know there's going to be some big ones coming in here in the next couple of months, but everything is tracking according to budget and under, so I have no concerns with the operating account at all.
Any of the other accounts?
Well, the capital one is in itself its own that we continue to track, and as of right now, no, there's no concern, but you know, we continue to track when the grants come in, and right now we're budgeting between the 50% and the 75% of the total competitive and discretionary that we're going to get at least 50 to 75%. So we have those in our cash forecast, and based on everything McGow has given us with the timeline of invoices and everything, it looks like we're going, you know, it kind of fluctuates. It's that late 25, early 26 that if cash is going to be needed, that's about when we're looking at. So I have a couple meetings here at the end of the month with First International Bank, just to kind of give them a heads up on what's going on, see the dollar value of what we're possibly looking at, and talk about the options with them. And then I do have a meeting with Baker Tilly set up as well to talk about what options for revenue bonds would be. But as I said before, right now, that is not my first choice, as the revenue bond rates are high, and I would prefer it more to be what First International can do for us right now, and then possibly revenue bonds later. So I will keep you posted on that front.
And Tana, I noticed we're starting to draw down some of the PFM account money.
We're not really drawing it down. What we're doing is we're just not reinvesting it back into PFM, because the rates right now are extremely comparable with the interest that we're getting at First International Bank, like within 0.1%. And so right now we're just choosing to put that money into the money market account and make it extremely liquid to us, rather than even tie it up for another year or 9 months.
Okay, is the goal to draw that all the way down then?
As of right now, it is. I do touch base with First International monthly just to double check on what the savings rates are and stuff. And if those savings rates start coming down, we will take a closer look at possibly investing a portion for a short-term time if those rates are better.
Okay, so you'll monitor those going back.
Yep, we are monthly.
And we don't trip any fee increase at PFM at some level at all.
When I looked at their contract, and it's been a couple of months, we are only charged fees on what we invest and stuff. Right now, there was no minimum balance that we had to keep with the investments that we have with them.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Chairman, just one other question. So if I look at the cash flow through June, and I just go down to the net income, we show net income year to date of negative 430,000, and our budget was a positive almost 200,000. So we've got like a $600,000 swing there. So I guess my question is that something we're going to pick up as we go forward, or I mean, basically, right?
Can you tell me where you are looking, please?
Well, if I look at it's the page titled Municipal Authority of City of Fargo, North Dakota, Budget versus Actuals, Fund 561, Airport Operations and Maintenance Dashboard, June 2024. Looks like we have that duplicated here. But that's the one page that has all the income and expenses for 21, 22, 23, 24.
What page number are you on?
Well, there's no number.
Down here? Yeah, they're numbered. Under your
Oh,
thumb?
3.
Okay.
It's under my thumb.
Okay.
Sorry. Thumb.
I'm wondering if that's on the balance tax and accounting report.
What's that?
Yes,
I'm wondering if that is on the balance tax and accounting.
it is, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let me take a look at that quick.
But again, Mr. Chair, my goal is not to go through every line item in the budget every month, but if we have something here where it looks like a $600,000 swing from our budget, then the question really is this, are we off track? Or because these expenses and income come in at different times, if we still think we're going to hit our budget at the end of the year, then it's not an issue. But if these swings are going to affect our net income at the end of the year, that's kind of what we're looking for.
No, I believe it'll swing at the end of the year. Right now, when the budget is put into the financial software, it's just kind of put in as a lump sum and it's not broken out by month. So we could work to improve that and maybe firm up what exactly we think we're going to get in each month. But right now, we're just putting that in as a lump sum for the year. So there could be expenses that have hit that we've averaged out for the whole year, or the same with income as well.
Well, I know that throws it off, and we're in the process of approving our budget for 2025. And I think if we know some of these expenses are all coming in March, we may want to do a little better job of budgeting so it's more practical. And so then when we're going through this, we can look, and if we're on track and on budget, there's nothing to be concerned about. But if there's discrepancy there, it kind of raises our awareness.
Yep, I totally agree. And when we do the after the 2025 budget is approved and stuff, we will go through the software and look like at an easy one would be like the farmland rent. We know that doesn't come in over the course of 12 months. We know they probably pay that in 1 or 2 checks a year. So we'll just look to kind of break it out when we actually think that income is coming in. And that'll make it versus the budget a little bit more accurate.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, my question, you said when the budget's approved, you'll do that. Like it would be important to do that before we approve the budget.
Well, for the 2025 budget, I mean, the final numbers are going to be the final numbers that you approved. What we'll do is we'll just take a line item and go in, and instead of breaking it out, dividing it by 12 months, we'll go in and say, are we going to expect more in the first quarter, less in the fourth quarter, and we'll just break that out per line. So when we do the budget to actuals monthly, for the meetings in 2025, it'll be a more true comparison.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Oh, and first of all, let's have a motion to approve the financial statement.
Do we need that every month? So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Shawnee. Berg.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye. Number 6, receive update from TL Stroh regarding parking structure.
Well, everything's kind of going according to Hoyle, so we're on schedule. We're still anticipating a bid on the temp parking lot on August 1st. We went to Albany on last Thursday and looked at precast samples. I'm going back this Friday because we're having them tweak a few things. During that, I had a little drawing made so you could see the roadway. So you can kind of see the that lighter piece of road right in front of it, right there. Yep. So that's how our new drive's going to work. So basically, that green space north curb of that is essentially our south curb of Dakota Drive right now. Jeff and I are talking about how to go about it in terms of phasing, and we're kind of thinking that, so it has to do with the Skyway, and so we're going to be doing some work right up against the facility, and we'll probably need to take some lanes out for a period of time. And so what we're hoping to do is build the extra lanes that we're doing while we build, during probably towards the end of building the ramp, and then we have a couple of columns that are right on the edge of that curb that we would have done right away, and then we could if we close down a couple of lanes up against the airport, then we'd have these 2 lanes helping us out with making that up during construction. You'll see that so the idea here is cars parking on and I'm not sure if we've really decided yet if they would park on the north or south side of that road. And then what we're doing is we're tapering that down to slow them up, because people will be coming out of the ramp, and so if we continue that road straight through the same width, we're only like 10 feet away from our front door. So a little concerned about that space there, and I like the idea of not having traffic zooming through here. We'd probably end up having some kind of a speed bump at that point and stuff too. But that way it gives us a whole bunch of extra, parking for people to wait for passengers, plus a lane that gets through all the way through. So that's the idea.
So what exactly are you recommending?
I just wanted to show last week, or last time you said you wish you would have seen something, and so I'm just wanting to show you what we're doing. So you guys approved us to do this, and so I just wanted to give you a little better picture of what we're looking at doing. So it'll be tweaked a little bit, obviously, but that's basically the.
Dr. Bashani.
Yeah, 2 things, Terry. One, you said speed bump, but I'm hoping you meant speed table, so it has a function.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we have the opportunity to put in a dedicated lane for buses, Ubers, and stuff, where is that in the scheme?
We haven't really talked about that. I'm not sure if that wouldn't be on the outside of what right now would be the south side of our drive today, and use this more for people waiting for passengers. We'd have to talk through that with which the airport and stuff. So
It's assuming we have the budgetary opportunity, it's hard to imagine us not doing that.
right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it really does work well. It lays out well, and we have the room for it. And
It got reinforced for me a couple times I've been out here when it's been busy, and that'll be the exact mess we'll have when we have more traffic all the time. So it becomes more important.
So you add more space there, you're gonna encourage more people to linger in front of the terminal versus going into the short-term lot to pay the meet and greet rate.
Yep, which is the problem right
Yeah.
now.
So it's gonna defeat the parking revenue when you
Right.
add more space for them.
yeah,
to
I don't know if, in that case, if we save this parking in this side for taxis and stuff, maybe, and not for people waiting. So
Well, that's what I meant. For
Yeah.
public transit, for lack of a better
Oh.
term.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Terry, I'm having a hard time, like, I see the green line.
Yep.
And is that, so what I'm thinking for safety is the
like a-
bonus of having a berm is that it's one more place for a person to get out of the car
yeah,
and then get onto a walk
we don't
space.
have space for a berm, Paula, but the idea is we're probably going to put some sort of fence through there, some sort of barrier that you can't walk across it in just any old place. You know what I mean? You'll see that at other big airports where they have these. We'll try to do a little more decorative job of that, but all we got is about 3 feet, 4 feet to work with, and so that's going to be curved both sides, raised, and then probably like this big.
So what if we just moved it like one more foot so that you could have, because I see you've got a sidewalk and some green space here. I mean, one of the benefits of having that berm is giving people a place to get out of the car safely. You know what I'm saying? Instead of people exiting a car, in this 4-lane area or the 2-lane area,
Oh,
which kind of becomes
you'd like
a little willy-nilly,
larger space in between.
that people could get out of the car.
Oh, we certainly have some room to slide that down if we want to do that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just my, like why have it? The berm gives you the opportunity to get out of the car in a safe space.
You don't want them to walk across all the lanes of traffic, though. You want to try and get them in a crosswalk.
Right.
That's the idea, is to try to not let them.
Without
Just
some
get out
type of a
anywhere.
fence or something.
And that's the catch-22. If you have a wide enough berm, people are going to do exactly that. They'll do the dumbest possible thing,
Mhm.
or most dangerous possible thing.
Do you have any examples of other airports with the low fence that you could show us?
Yeah,
I guess
we can
I'm-
certainly come up with some. I don't have any today, but yeah, I mean, it's really more about making it difficult enough that you're not going to try to hike over it. And in some cases, in a lot of bigger airports, it's more not only that, but it's a traffic barrier, so cars aren't ramming through because usually a pretty fast lane of traffic going through on the other side, and so in this case, it's not going to be that kind of a deal. So I think we'd be looking at something that's a little more decorative, but still makes it difficult to go across this thing at any given point.
Offline, Terry and I talked about this. I got horrible examples of what lengths people will go to save 5 steps.
Yeah.
It's got to be a barrier that the average person could not jump across.
Well, say I'm arriving at the airport in an Uber, and the Ubers say this is going to be the Uber hotel van, that type of thing, drop off area, right? So where do I get out? How do I get to the crosswalk? Do I have to walk on the road?
No, I guess that's where our job was to figure out having a lane there. I haven't necessarily said this is where these people go, this is where those people go. If it was me, I would probably put Uber drops there so they could get on a sidewalk we would probably continue this sidewalk. Well, so this is a entrance over to the airport right there. So we probably should have done some, you know, yeah.
Watch your eyes.
So this is going to go into our existing entrance right here. So they would come to here, and then same thing on this side. So that would be my thought, that people aren't unpacking luggage unless they're pulling right up to the like they do today. They're right here is where they get out and unpack. Nope, I don't see anybody up here doing that. I see people coming across here when they're leaving with luggage. But the idea would be is if we put Uber taxi kind of stuff here, then they'd have sidewalk to get to. So maybe we have some more entry points from sidewalk there. Then they go straight over into the terminal and the existing entries that we have. The new terminal doesn't have any new entrance points. So, and then the same thing with this, if you're parking in short term, you can get through here, you can get through here, and you can go through the middle, or if you want to, you go
Would it be
upstairs.
safer dropping them off on the other side of that street, closer to the terminal?
Other sidewalks.
Yeah, that's the thing we're missing here.
Those are all your handicap spots now. So then people end up going in the second lane or the third lane. And then you've got the police and Uber taxis over in this fourth lane.
Like if you're dropping everyone off on the south side,
Right.
then you're forcing all those people to walk through all that traffic.
Well, I think for a long time, people are going to do what they do today. They're going to be unloading right here. They just are.
And is that
So-
wrong?
No, that's how it's done.
I just
Done anywhere that way.
think from our standpoint, we want to make sure that customer satisfaction, people are going out there, what they see and feel and touch is really critical. And I just, like you said, I think people are going to want to be on closest to the terminal
Well,
to get off.
I mean, obviously your Uber could take you here too. So it just depends on, I mean, if there's maybe Ubers are waiting for people to come out, they'd be here. So they'd walk across and then get to here. But again, I think the majority of the traffic that's going to be coming to the airport is going to want to drop off right there, not
Drop off where?
right in front of, where they do today, right in front of the
Yeah,
terminal.
that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Uber and Lyft drops off curbside and then they leave. They don't wait.
Oh,
They have to go actually to another, they've got to get like off airport
Yeah.
property before they get another fare.
why?
It's the way the geofence is, because you don't want, because we used to have the problem early on. The whole curb would be full of Uber and Lyfts waiting. And then there was no room for the passengers. Right? So they have to go sit on the crossover road and wait until like you get them.
Yeah.
Then they can drive up.
I don't want to get in all the details, but I think this is the way of the future. And
Yeah.
people are going to get off the plane and we want them, Uber to be there as quickly as possible.
And I would say on the left
So-
side, they have a waiting area where the taxis are.
Well, we just need to think about all that stuff and how the person's
Yeah.
getting dropped off and when they get off the plane. I think we need to keep the parking lot full, but I don't think we should make decisions and make it difficult for people to get dropped off or picked up and try to convince them to be in the parking lot. So let's just make, and I understand this is kind of a secondary thing, but we only have one chance to do this right.
Yeah, and it's really, that's something that we need to discuss with the airport and with Mead Hunt about traffic and stuff, and then we'll have a plan, maybe a couple options of what we would do. But
For what it's worth, Sacramento's fairly similar curbside, and their Ubers have to use the separated lane for drop off.
Oh.
So that they don't tie up that curb with the
Right.
normal flyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people have to cross the street and they complain about it, but the airport has said, no, you can't park on the,
So there's an
Airport.
Uber designated lane.
Yeah, that's the way it is basically at all airports. You don't see Ubers or taxis. They're held off, and larger airports has somebody out there. Okay, you can come forward, pick up your thing and get out of here. And the next one comes forward. But Paul,
Mr. Chair, Terry, so if somebody is arriving on an Uber can they get to, like, I'm not seeing this, does the sidewalk go inside to the stairs so then they can go up and across on the Skyway? Or in reverse, say when they are arriving in Fargo, can they go across the Skyway, go down and then get on the Uber safely without crossing the traffic? Like, is that stairway accessible?
Yeah, so we have a staircase here, we have a staircase here, we have a staircase here.
Is there an elevator there too?
And then we have 2 elevators right here. 3, we have actually room for 3. So we're only doing 2 right now.
Okay.
So yeah, so say I got a carry-on bag and my phone's got my ticket on it, I can just go in, go up, and go across.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is a crosswalk on both sides there too, right?
Yeah, we should have shown that here. We'll have crosswalks marks, and then obviously this is underneath the Skyway. So
And again, using not the Sacramento's the perfect model, I wouldn't know. But those crosswalks both being tables is what they use there to double slow the traffic down.
oh yeah,
Every time it's
yeah,
a crosswalk, it's a table, so nobody ever speeds up.
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, that's typically Phoenix does the same thing at Sky Harbor.
So could you could you zoom out just a little bit? Okay, can you show me how the traffic's going in and out of the ramp?
Traffic going into short-term lot is here. Traffic going into 2nd, 3rd, 4th is here. So what it does is it goes up a ramp and comes up here, goes around. If there's no parking in here, comes back to this side, goes back up. Okay. So it's, you see if there's, parking on either level. We're going to have signs that say there's this many stalls on this.
Then they come out,
And then if they come out here.
and so then they have to go through another gate. So they're not paying when they're coming out.
No. So now they're in the long-term parking lot, and they have to go all the way down to here to get out.
Then how about the other side? What's happening over there?
Just like it does today. So yeah, this just goes into the short-term lot.
Oh, so that's not going to be there.
Huh?
Excuse me?
This is exactly the way it works today. This is gonna go into only the short-term parking ramp, and then this goes into long-term, just like it does today, exactly like it does.
So there's going to be designations within the parking ramp, short-term and long-term in the parking ramp. Okay.
So, so short-term's first floor, and all the other parking above is just normal parking.
And
on
on the
ramp.
south of what's that driveway there?
This one?
Yeah.
This is for the short-term people to come out of the short-term lot and go to the ticket.
So there's not an exit. I just assumed that there would be, like, you get your ticket to go into the parking ramp, and then when you wanted to leave, there'd be a gate there so you could pay there, but obviously not.
No, the ticket booth does not change, our building does not change, and that's where you do all of your ticket
Okay.
exiting, so.
So they go through the
Yeah.
long-term lot out to the main gate.
So we have a little gate here so people from here can't go in there. So, so it'll open up just like it does now. You drive over it. It's really preventing people from the long-term lot to get into the short-term lot. So that's all we would have.
All right. Any other discussion?
You were also going to, Mr. Chair, Terry, were you going to have a price for us on that?
We're working on it.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks, Terry.
Receive update from Meeting Hunt McGow Construction regarding passenger terminal modification project and baggage claim rendering.
Brad is on vacation, so there's not a lot to report there. I think everybody got the rendering.
Mhm.
The fee will be for that. They did send, McGough did send some pictures of the progress on the terminal expansion. So Darren can share you some pictures that Joe Casper provided us. So they're making some room. I mean, if you ever want to go out there on a tour, just let us know. So they're making pretty good progress. Foundations. This is the area under the 3-story part of it where the airport offices are on top. This is where the elevators are going to go up.
So this would be like the freight receiving right here. Over here would be the front door, like the admin area. And then, on this side, we got like the freight elevator and the passenger elevator. There's not an order to these. There's just additional footing ones from last Friday.
Wow.
And then here's the renderings we have.
Really all that we have unless you have some questions. But if you want a tour, just let us know and we'll get you out there with McGough.
I took a tour of both the parking ramp and the terminal building yesterday after the circle jerk meeting we had yesterday. Kind of impressive. The tour.
Mr. Chair.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just
Second, Rick first.
one question. This is kind of a little bit, glad Bernie's here, but one of my thoughts, I understand now there's none of the car rental agencies are going to rent any space in the parking ramp. But I think it would be smart to gather their input that if somewhere down the road they wanted to utilize a parking ramp, what would they need to be most efficient with rental cars? So I just kind of want to plant that seed that we're thoughtful about that if there's other things that they would want.
Think about that, Bert.
I'll think about it. But one of the things that other airports are doing is getting cars out of their parking ramps. Now, I personally don't have one, an operation in a parking ramp, but Hertz licensee here and Enterprise both do. And they've said that the parking ramps are not conducive to that the airports can make more money on customers than car rent.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would agree with that if your parking lot's full. If your parking lot's not full, there may be opportunities to create something at a lesser cost for rental companies that would be an advantage to your customers. Let's not, I know it was presented that you have to pay $25 a day for all your parking calls. I think when we put the budget together, we assumed 60% occupancy, which would be more like $14 a day. Probably still doesn't make sense, and I don't want to get into that negotiations at all, but I'm just thinking if there's something that long-term, if we had parking in there or if we had a rental car service in there during construction, it's easy to tweak it a little bit for something down the road. That was my only comment.
Okay, Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Say board members and Dean, you weren't on the board yet when Gina made a presentation about the bathrooms. So Gina's our head designer for Mead and Hunt. And so she kind of walked the board through and said it was an opportunity to give a little feedback. Like Jim, I remember you said, I wish you were doing a little something different with the wallpaper murals, or we talked about the different features of the restrooms. And I thought that a presentation like that wouldn't cost, the $8,000 to $10,000 that we were talking about to do a rendering, but it would be an opportunity for the board to just interact a little bit with our design staff, our design team about the baggage claim area. And so I'm hoping that maybe we can have a conversation like that. Because in the rendering, this is lovely, but I don't see any seating. I think there's things that we still have questions about.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would say if Brandon's not here, we should just keep this on the agenda for next
Right,
time.
exactly.
Nice we saw a picture, but no one can explain it. We should just skip over that and keep it on the agenda for next time.
Exactly.
Okay, any further discussion?
Is that acceptable, or should we have a motion for that?
Well, you can make it a motion, yeah.
I'll just move that we leave this on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Item 8, authorize attendance to some group roundtable in Nashville, North Carolina.
Mr. Chair. So I was one that asked to put this on the agenda. I attended this roundtable last year, and it's mid-sized airports, and it talks about marketing and just about everything else. The interesting thing about North Carolina or Asheville is that they are going through a large renovation similar to what we're doing right now, and I thought it was very valuable. So I'm willing to attend if the airport would like, or the board would like to send me again.
Well, I was in Asheville last year, not on airport business, but just on a vacation, and I thought their airport was rather dreary. Very dreary, as a matter of fact. And they were going through some construction, but yeah, it was terrible.
So the conference is a roundtable of mid-sized airports around the country, and it's an opportunity to learn and what's working and what's not working at other mid-sized airports. So it's a large group. There's typically, the one I attended last year, there was representatives from American and United and Breeze and Sun Country as well. There was discussion about parking and marketing, and I thought it was very valuable. So I remember when I went last year, it had already been determined by staff to send 2 people from Flint. So I think that I'm not the only one that thought that this was a valuable.
So is Flint going this year?
No, and really, it's not focused for marketing. It's put on by a marketing company.
Right. So it's kind of like Quotient is like a Flint. They're marketing. So this is their meeting.
Yep.
So they're trying to get more business from other airports. Is why they put this on. I mean, in essence.
Probably.
And so, yeah.
And bringing together a varied group of.
I mean, I think it's great you're willing to go to this. I want to, Flint's our marketing people. We don't want to end up going 2 different directions. So, but I mean, if you're willing to do it, I think that's great.
For instance, that's where I learned about the baggage claim, or there's just discussion about all sorts of different things. So it's.
We don't pay for the marketing people to go to this thing, are we?
Actually,
No.
When I suggested going last year, which was actually recommended by Shannon Full from the chamber, she suggested it to me, and when I brought it up at the meeting, it had already been determined that we were going to send 2 people from Flint, and so then I went in lieu of Flint going, so it cost the airport half of what it was going to. And Shannon Full has actually also said she would be interested in attending on behalf of the airport and the community with me, if we're interested in that. So she thinks it's a
This
valuable.
was Shanna's friend that kind of runs this.
If Shannon goes, chamber pays for her, right? The airport's not gonna pay for somebody outside going.
I don't know how that.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, we don't.
No.
Well, what did we do last year?
I don't know.
We just paid for Paula.
We just paid for Paula.
I would move that we authorize this for Paula. For one
Okay,
person.
motion is,
I mean, I think this is probably something that we should authorize it for one person, not a specific person. And
motion to authorize for one person to go then?
Yeah.
Is that your motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Received communication from Clear Channel Airports.
So the July 16th letter was provided by email from Thaddeus Glenn, in response to the RFP request that I had sent out some time ago at the request of the board. Stacy is online if she can hear us. I think she's in Minneapolis. I don't know, Stacy, are you there? If you have any questions. In essence, as you can read, they're giving up even though they think sponsorships are covered in the current agreement. They're going to allow the airport authority to solicit, execute sponsorship agreements. The catch would be is that if an existing advertiser signs a sponsorship agreement with the airport authority, that advertiser would have to continue for the same term with Clear Channel. Same is true if an outside firm, XYZ Bank, comes in and signs a sponsorship agreement, they would have to sign a agreement for the same term with Clear Channel. This is one of the twists that are in there. So they're basically hands off on the sponsorships, but would require those sponsors to also have a concurrent agreement with Clear Channel. I don't know, Stacy, if you had anything to add, but Thaddeus is on as well.
And I apologize, I'm in Nashville and I'm in the Delta Club and it's still very noisy. In reading the letter as against the contract, I don't take any issue with it. I think it's sort of a hybrid of the issue between the airport and Clear Channel of definition of advertising and sponsorship. So I don't have any issue with the language of that letter from Thaddeus and Clear Channel.
I know, Rick.
Mr. Chairman. Stacy, is there any dispute resolution language?
There's not. There's no section of the Clear Channel agreement signed by the airport that provides for any alternative dispute resolution. And I think that's the reason that I've tried to take this approach with Clear Channel is there a compromise in between? And I did reach out to Thaddeus regarding a quote unquote buyout on the contract, and he can probably speak better to this than I. Unappreciated capital of $148,745.56, and then the projected from January 1, 2025 to the end of the contract, 10/32, $595,453. I'm not good at math, but that looks to be about $750,000 in terms of what's left on the contract.
I can clarify that, folks. Basically, our undepreciated capital is effectively $150,000 right now, based upon the investment we made in the existing media program. On our pro forma, the EBITDA we projected earning effective January 1 of next year through the end of term, which is 2032, is effectively about $600,000 is what we projected to earn after we paid the airport on the existing term. So that's 600 for EBITDA, 150 of undepreciated capital is what the finances entail.
Okay, Rick, I know you had talked about a couple of things about Clear Channel. You want to?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Thaddeus, I appreciate you coming back with trying to find more of a common ground. So I appreciate receiving this. I guess, my question is, and kind of what I've been thinking about is there's a difference between Bill's auto insurance sponsoring something and having the Kiwanis sponsor something, or one of the foundations in our area is this Alex Stern Foundation, Dakota Medical Foundation. I would view those as more of a true sponsorship rather than advertising. So I think we've got to digest this a little bit. I mean, my question is, it's easy for us to sit here and say, let's find sponsorships, but who's gonna go out and get those sponsorships? I mean, obviously, our staff is not in a position where they've done that. So again, I think we need to do two things. We need to make it really crystal clear. I think we need to go from this letter, but then also figure out, is there a market for that, which we don't know, and who's going to go and call on those sponsors and what for? So, yeah. And again, I just want to appreciate talking with you. I know, I've read through our agreement and our contract with you, and I appreciate your saying there's 600,000 out there. At the same time, you need our approval for where you're gonna advertise within the airport.
Absolutely understood. I just thought might as well furnish you with data, and then the board can certainly do what it sees fit. But if you know, I know Mr. Cosgriff was looking for, what is there, an out option? And so I just wanted to say, these are the financials. If the board was thinking about, well, do we want to buy out this agreement? Clear Channel will consider offers put out there without making any commitments. So I just wanted you to know these are the numbers that we're looking at. But certainly, Mr. Berg, I understand.
We didn't get those numbers in your communication.
No, but I was talking to Stacy and just like, well, if there was a buyout number and we don't have we didn't want to just say, hey, here is what the contract is for sale. We were saying, board, here is what we are looking at doing as a business. Here's what we spent and here's what we project. And so now you are informed. And then if the board decided, I mean, our hope is you don't want to buy us out. We can come figure out a way to work together. We'll let you do whatever you want to do with your sponsorships within the confines of what we need to do to protect our business, and then we can move forward for the remainder of our term. But having been involved in these meetings the past couple months, I just recognize there might be an interest on the board's part to explore all options. And so we just wanted to be out there in the spirit of cooperation.
Mr. Chairman, Thaddeus, could you explain how it would work that Rick Berg decides he wants to sponsor the play area? So Rick Berg's going to write a check for $100,000. Then he also has to have a contract for advertising with you.
Correct, and that's just and we're not specifying. He could find if Rick Berg wanted to sponsor the play area. We'd say, here is our offering in our media program, and he could, if he wanted to pick the smallest one, that's fine. What we don't want to do is erode our business, and that is our biggest concern when it comes to with this sponsorship. It's a relatively small pond to fish in, and if two people are fishing in the same pond, it impacts our business. So we're like, how do we come up with a way to enable the board to get what it wants in the meaningful big ticket item sponsorships without eroding our business at the same time. So that was where our proposal comes from.
No, Thaddeus, I was just trying to understand that if staff or the board were to go out and pitch a naming or sponsorship, we would go to that entity and say, okay, will you contribute $100,000 to sponsor this, and then enter into an advertising contract with Clear Channel. I'm just trying to figure out how that would work.
The mechanic. I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
No, and just what the additional amount would have to be in addition to the $100,000. Is there a $5,000 contract with Clear Channel, or $10,000? What? I'm getting a step ahead of the whole thing, but I'm also sensitive to donors that may want to name something or are not traditional advertisers, as Rick has pointed out.
For instance, a nonprofit foundation.
Okay, so I guess, and we kind of talked about the last paragraph of the letter is, the mechanism for how this would work. We will figure out whether it would be in the form of an addenda or an addendum or some such matter. But if, let's say, Rick Berg said, you know what, I, as a board member, want to sponsor the play area. That is a situation where, like, well, we wouldn't expect Rick Berg to be an advertiser in our program. We want to be reasonable about this. But if it was, say, Sanford Health wanted to, who had been a long-time advertiser with Clear Channel, well, then we'd say, well, Sanford Health, I think it's great you want to sponsor the play area, and we hope you do a great service for the board, and it looks wonderful. But we would want someone like Sanford Health to, well, here, why don't you be in our digital network and baggage claim? Or here's a static display. And we would give them our offering. Here's where the different options are. Here's what the prices are. And then in our addendum, I think we would work out the mechanism saying, hey, this is just the agreement, but then the airport would benefit from 100% of whatever revenue you generated as a result of said sponsorship. We want to be reasonable here, though.
It's what they did in Sioux Falls. So Sanford has the play area, they're required to also advertise. So they've done both. That's where the concept came.
But we'd love to have Mr. Berg as an advertiser if you wanted.
Mr. Chair, Thaddeus and
Yes.
members, I think in any contract negotiation, it goes back and forth, and I appreciate you coming to us with this, but I think that we definitely need to regroup and have a counter offer. In my opinion, your plan to require only staff to procure the sponsorship opportunities is an undue burden on our staff. And it basically requires staff to sell advertising. So I'm not comfortable with that unless we would create a in-house marketing position that would take care of that. It just doesn't seem feasible. That is, I mean, in my opinion, fellow board members, I think that, in my personal opinion, I think that we could honor the Clear Channel contract for the Appendix A advertising, which says that any screens moved during the construction process will be given new placement per the contract. So no big changes for you, but that we're not going to do sponsorship, just like our contract doesn't mention sponsorship. And you're not currently doing sponsorship, so it doesn't affect the current income that you have now. We're just saying, if we want to, if a company wants to sponsor something like a play area, I think that the way that this is written, it's further compromising entities that would be interested in partnering with the airport, whether it be sponsorship on art or play areas or whatever. It even makes it more expensive by requiring them to advertise. And we may have foundations or, it makes it very complicated. So I would like to say, let's just stick with what we've got. Do the Appendix A, just like stated in the contract, but we don't do, that way your income is not changed from what you currently have in place, and give the airport the ability to move forward with sponsorships.
Well, Mr. Chairman and Paul, I like kind of where you're headed, but the other question that doesn't seem to be addressed in the contract is in the expansion area, the new area, both the expanded terminal and the parking ramp. That just kind of gets folded into this. If I understand you correctly, that is that you would get additional advertising spots throughout the expanded area in addition to what you've already got. Is that correct?
That is absolutely our understanding of how the contract reads and how just about every advertising contract we have in 60 plus airports around the country. If you were to just put a one gate addition on, let's look at the Gatehold digital network as it currently exists. Our full expectation would be if you, as you are going to be putting in addition to the east, you're going to add some gates, that we would rearrange the digital network to encapsulate the new layout of the terminal. Would you, I mean, would the board consider putting another RFP and have a separate airport advertising concessionaire sell the addition and then have clear? Is that something that the board would be considering?
Rick,
Well, Mr. Chairman, Thaddeus, we're going down a kind of a rabbit trail here.
Okay.
We're not, I don't think you're looking for any motion. We're just receiving this communication right now. So I think that's good. I just want to step back about a month ago, and it's unfortunate Brandon's not on here, but we kind of directed Brandon to kind of put more of a comprehensive plan together that included, advertising, signage, sponsorship, and just the interior of the airport, how it all flows. And so we haven't heard back from him on that yet. So I think we don't want to by board meeting determine where we're going to place things and what we're going to place,
Right.
all that stuff. At the end of the day, we want someone that comes through here, enjoys, it's not like a New York Times billboard, but it's appropriate with advertising, it's appropriate with art. And if there's sponsorship opportunities, it's appropriate to invite people to do that. So I think from my point of view, I think we should wait and hear back from Brandon on where he is with this kind of comprehensive group and then go from there.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Just one thing, Mr. Chair. So regarding the email that Brandon said about the art consultant, because I think that could be an important part of putting the whole airport together and making it all cohesive. I thought that back in our April meeting that we were going to have an RFP for an art consultant.
We're going to have Brandon kind of put this together, which may result in the RFP. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what email you have.
My recollection is that if the cost for the professional services is 30,000 or less, he can pick who he wants, and Ivy Olin was the one that he was going to get a proposal from. It would just be incorporated into the information he gave us a couple meetings ago. What Brandon is putting together is the cost for the scope of work that he presented to the board a couple meetings ago. For artwork, sponsorships, advertising, signage for exterior, interior, monument signage, branding, and wayfinding. So he's putting together a cost for that, and then Ivy would be part of his team, and they pay through that. It'd be part of the proposal that he would have in the scope of work. There wouldn't be an RFP, is how I understood it, for the art person.
I'd have to, could I?
Yeah, I mean, this is what he presented to the board at the last meeting or a couple of meetings ago. So the board looked at that scope of work, concurred with it, and what he's doing is developing what's it going to cost to implement that scope of work. You'll have that for us at the August meeting. Do you remember getting that or not? If not, we can send you another copy of it.
I'll take a copy of it.
Why don't you send this out to everyone?
Yeah.
Just as a refresher.
Okay.
Previous packet, but
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
send it out
we'll
again.
send it.
Occasionally we get a lot of emails, a lot of packets, so
Just the board packet. So
block off 6 hours a day to read my airport stuff. Sometimes not able to get through it all.
you can stop sending emails. That'd be fine.
No.
Okay.
I want to know what's going on.
Well, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Don't remember getting this.
Thank you, Thaddeus.
Thank you.
It was up on the screen and everything.
Yeah,
If not, we'll move on to number 10, receive update on the 2025 preliminary budget.
Tana, are you still on? She is, but,
Yes, I am.
So I don't know if you want to go through any of the highlights that we kind of tweaked from the last discussion. The only update on benefits is that Pro Resources has locked the benefits that they provide to our employees through 2026. So there's no change in the benefit cost with the exception of dental. One of the dental policies, there's a slight increase, and there's another dental policy where there's a decrease. So I think it was like 12,000 a year less, but otherwise the benefits are pretty well known. It still has a 3% cost of living built into it. And then I don't know, Tana, if you have any other things that we discussed, go ahead and cover that.
I can just show the budget, but let's see. Oh, there he gave me access. Thank you. So what I did was, do they have the packet shown with the summary version in it or not?
Yes, everybody has that, yes.
Okay. What I did was, I know that the budget is extremely long and gets extremely complicated. So what I did was I just took the actuals for 21, 22, 23, put in the 2024 budget with actuals through May, and then 2025, and just did, it's still extremely lengthy, but it just kind of lays it out more of the operating fund versus the construction fund, the parking, and breaks it out a little better. And I know one of the commissioners had asked last time if we could kind of show a break-even budget. So what I did in here, and Commissioner Berg, yes, I got your message from yesterday during the meeting. I will add page numbers next time because that will be extremely handy. I made it kind of a break-even budget as asked before. So I did add a line where we're going to transfer money in or out of savings to kind of make it a break-even budget. So we show no income in every category. So that's kind of a lot to look through. But what I did was I just went through and just kind of did a summary of the budget, just so you guys get a very high level overview. Because like I said, it's a lot to read through. And Sean kind of gave you the things that had changed with the budget. But just so you can see how everything is broken out. So if we look at the operating budget, the big highlights in the revenue are the rental fees that come from the hangars and the building. And the other one is the parking income. So I just kind of broke out the revenue for you a little bit along with the expenses. So to make it a break-even budget at the end of 2025 for operating, we're transferring, or we should be seeing about a $4.6 million net income that we'll put into savings to help start building our reserves back up again, because we know we're going to be decreasing them. So a little summary for 2024, the revenue is up 1.7 million versus 2024. There is a decrease in expenses of 780,000, and that is only because if you look in the operating capital outlay part, there is machinery that we're buying this year that was over $2 million. So we're not going to need that machinery that next year. So that's why it looks like our expenses are going to be much lower, but really it is just that one line item. All of our other expenses are increasing. So we end up with basically a 2.5 increase in income over 2024. Just to kind of show you a little bit of how it breaks out, a lot of the revenue, 50% of our revenue is made up of parking. The other 13% is made up of the reimbursements that we get for the law enforcement and the TSA. And then the rest comes in for building rentals. Those are our big ones right there for revenue. If we break it out and look at where our expenses are overall, with our personnel and benefits, we're at about 41%. And then our other big expense comes in our other services. And the other services are like the engineering fees, the parking fees, or what we pay SP Plus. That's where those other services come in. And the other ones are very minimal, you can see. But for our expenses, that's the majority of our expenses. Just to take a quick peek at the capital, which everybody is extremely aware of, we have these major projects going on with the terminal. And in 2025, we're estimating about 99 million of the $158 million of the project will be spent in 2025. With the parking, we do have a lot of parking expenses this year. We know the total project for parking is 42 million. So in 2025, we'll be using about 12 million of those expenses will be for parking. And then just so it's on everybody's radar, I work with Jeff Klein, with Tom Schauer to kind of go through the CIP and make sure that we have major projects out there. Some of the other projects we have coming up in the next 3 years that are not in the budget for 2025, but are on the cash forecast that we're looking at, is we have the South GA pavement reconstruction rehab, the North GA apron, then we have some pavement rehab, and the 927 runway. So those are some major projects that we'll start forecasting for coming up as the terminal and parking progress. So those are on our radar as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
Tana, on those other projects, what is the anticipated participation of grant income for those? Are they 50%?
Right now, to be very honest, we don't have any grants tied to them. We just have them listed as other projects because right now we have the grants going to the terminal projects. But as we forecast out further than 2027, we will look at the timeline of these projects and decide what grants should be applied to them.
Okay.
So it's not planned out that far, you know, other than pencil work on paper. But I know there is, how do I say this without raising a lot of questions? If that $60 million state aid comes in, if we use all of that for the terminal, we can take some of our reserves and use to fund some of these projects. If we use 40 million to fund the terminal, then we'll have 20 million left to that state aid to fund it. So how we use the cash right now is conversations we haven't got that in depth with yet because we just really want to focus on the terminal and the parking for right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand. Let's just take the pavement recon, the 17 million. If we don't have a grant attached to that, are you saying we would self-fund the full 17 million?
I'm not saying yes or no. I'm saying we would have to look at that because everything is truly dependent on those discretionary and competitive grants right now that we have flagged for the terminal. So right now we don't know how many reserve dollars we will have to apply to these projects. And what we do have in reserves will be a conversation with Sean and Mead and Hunt and everybody else to find out how do we fund these? Do we fund them do we do them in the years that are on the CIP right now? Can we push them down the road? So those are some tough conversations we'll have coming up within the next year.
Well, and Tana, that's kind of why I'm trying to understand this as we look at that capital improvement plan. We've seen in the past that a lot of these have grant funds attached to them, and so how to place them in there. If, for example, if pavement rehab for is not receiving any grant funds, would we try to self-fund that, or would that sort of automatically push it out into future years?
That would be a question for Sean and the engineers to be able to discuss and say, is this pavement rehab needed this year? Can we push it out a year? Those are not decisions I will make. Those are decisions others will make. And if they say it needs to, we'll try and figure out how we can make that happen with the money we have available.
Yeah. And that's where it gets a little confusing in the project where, we're trying to plan for these, but we're also a little bit disproportional when we do that if we aren't understanding that there's some of these projects, if they don't receive additional grant funding, we cannot do.
And I think we are all aware of that. And I don't think that it's an answer that anybody can give you today, because as we keep going back to the standard answer, it depends on how all of these grants fall that we're waiting on. And if we get more than what, are we going to get 50% of our ask, 75%, 90%? That will determine what reserve funds we have to carry forward and use for these projects. And as the projects go on, that will become more clear and will still give us some time frame to determine which projects are necessary and what are not. And if we do need additional funding, then those are conversations I will have with First International and Baker Tilly to find out what our options are along that way too.
Thank you, and I really appreciate this summary. Can you share that with us?
Sure, I can send it to Joan and Sean and they can distribute it out to you.
Yeah, I think that'd be really helpful.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. I don't know that that needs a motion either. It's just this review. Okay, number 11, bid tabulation and recommendation of award from Mead and Hunt for terminal apron expansion project, subject to FAA review.
Okay, so I believe all of you received well, let me back up. Thursday of last week, we opened bids for the terminal apron expansion. Basically, it's an apron that goes along with the expansion of the terminal building itself. So, open bids on Thursday. We received 4. One from Northern Improvement, a second from Park Construction, Reedy Construction, and then Strata. Reedy Construction out of Aberdeen was the low bidder at $12,223,000 and change. We will submit a application to the FAA for this week to fund approximately, or at least 30% is going to be eligible for discretionary funding. We're trying to get you in the neighborhood. There's no guarantee of this, but approximately $9 million of discretionary money for this project, the 30% of this project, along with a glycol line project that we're opening bids for this afternoon. Could be 9 million, could be 7 million, just don't know. We reviewed all of Reedy's bid documents. Everything is in line as far as their bonding, their contractor's license, their DBE forms, their good faith efforts, and all the miscellaneous forms that they need to provide at the time of the bid opening. The idea behind this project is the grant would be executed with the FAA in 2024 by the end of the fiscal year. At that time, the actual award would be, the physical award would be made, enter into the contract, and then once the grant money is received, then the contractor could start purchasing materials this year, and then construction would happen in first thing in 2025. So my recommendation is to award this bid to Reedy Construction contingent upon receiving that FAA grant. And I should mention that the award bids can be held for a period of 90 days before they expire, but that 90 days will bring us to the end of the fiscal year. So,
where is this? What are we doing? Is this?
This is new pavement to serve
on
the 4 new gates on the east end of the terminal.
This is part of the terminal renovation.
Correct.
It's not anything different from that. What did we estimate the cost would be originally?
I had Tana could correct me if I'm wrong because I don't have it in my at my fingertips here, but I believe there was $12.5 million estimated in the CIP. Is that correct, Tana? Total project. That's with all the engineering and construction combined.
I think as we're going forward, that'd be important to know. If
we have a bid
we're looking at, just tell us where we are from our original bid.
And the other same thought, I was sitting right there. Should have had that.
And the other question, what were the other bids? Was it a big range or was it all pretty close?
That's in the bid tabulation. So it is very close actually. So Reedy Construction was the low bid at 12.2 million, or excuse me, 12,223,000. Park Construction was the next bid at 12,284,000. Northern Improvement was third low at 12,451,000, and the Strata was about 13.8 million. So the 3 lowest bids were within basically $250,000 of each other.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Rashani. Bird.
Aye.
Cosgrove. Heckman.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Number 12, received communication from Beaton Farms regarding 3-year extension to farmland rental agreements.
Matt and Scott Beaton have been one of our two primary tenant farmers. There's NDSU as well. They put forth a proposal to extend their lease for the 2025, 2026, 2027 crop years with a 20% increase on the ag land that they have. They've also proposed to take over Cass Clay Farms. It's about 555 acres that they had leased from us for the same time period with a 20% increase in the rental rate that they're paying. So I thought that was pretty generous. Commodity prices right now, if you look this morning, I mean, you got corn at 362, beans at 995, and wheat at 555. Commodity prices are way down. So for them to provide a 20% increase, I think was pretty good on their part. The city just renewed one of their contracts back in May or June at $120 an acre. Some folks from Abundance. So I'd recommend your approval of extending those to the Beatons with all that farmland. And then there's one other change in parcel number 3 that's was under the Cass Clay Farm. Parcel number 3 is this area right here north of the terminal. It's very difficult to get to. Anytime anyone goes in, we have to provide escorts and brooms and stuff to get to the cropland. So with our staff and the tenant farmers, NDSU would like to take this over and put that into alfalfa. They have an 8-year variety that they'd like to put in, which would cut down on the soil erosion into, well, depending on which way the wind goes. And out in this field, there's a bunch of storm inlets in this area here for the airfield drainage, and it would also cut down on the amount that goes in there. So NDSU is willing to take that as well. How we handle NDSU, the Park District, and the Fargo Dome for the properties that they lease is whatever the average is for all of the acreage, that's what they pay. It's currently about $148 an acre. I haven't calculated now how much that will go up, but NDSU will put that in their budget to take that over, which would be a really, really good thing. But everything else would be under the Beaton Farms for the next 3 crop years.
Rick.
What's their average rent that they're gonna pay?
I didn't calculate that, 186. It's gonna be about the 175 to 180 range. I can get that to you.
Well, I mean, my point is, it doesn't matter what the increase is, what's the county average for these things, and it's kind of, obviously, we have some difficult stuff to farm here. The other question I have, quite frankly, is they didn't get a lot of the stuff planted.
That's correct.
And is Beaton Farm just like too big? That this is kind of the last stuff, and so they took the government program on it? Because it, I mean, really, on County Road 20, none of that was planted.
Right. Yeah, they
So,
had quite a few acres.
I know they're paying, but
It went into the preventative plant program. Yeah, there was quite a bit of acreage that didn't get in different areas, but I guess that's a question we can ask. I mean, it's your desire. I think the county average when I looked was around 145 to 150, but all the properties are different. There's some people paying 275 an acre up to 300 an acre. It all depends on the productivity of the parcel.
Mr. Chairman, do we go out and bid this, or is this just continuation and
We
negotiation?
did some years ago. I think maybe 2014 was the last time that we did put it out, but they've always.
And I know NDSU does a survey of cash rents. I know they do it. I'm not familiar with it. But
Yeah, I don't know if they've done one now with commodity prices where they're at now. I mean, corn was over 7 not that long ago. Now it's right 362 when I look today. So not quite sure if the data would be relevant based on commodity prices at the time that they did the survey.
Well, and these type of things, we don't really have a policy on how often to go out and look competitively.
I think this is a really good deal. Here, your call.
Paula?
Mr. Chairman, I was just curious how much acreage it was, like how many acres. We talked yesterday about Williston has an oil well, so I was just curious how much.
Oh, yeah.
it's got like 3,000 acres, don't it?
There's 555
Well, I
plus
want to say 23
Quite a bit.
7, 8,
total.
not quite 900 acres roughly.
Thank you.
Okay.
Plus there's so if you understand the Fargo Dome, so the Fargo Dome leases farmland from us for NDSU. So when the Fargo Dome was constructed, it's that 40-acre parcel right here. The city had to go out and find 40 acres someplace else for NDSU to farm. So that's what that is there. That's a reproduction. So the Dome pays the rent, NDSU farms it. The Park District pays us rent for the soccer fields and the park up north and the other areas. The Riverwood Park over here by the wastewater plant.
Up further.
Up here, yeah. So, and they pay the average of what our rental rate is.
So do we have the ability to terminate these contracts or not?
There would be a termination clause, you know, if there's, you know, they don't pay us or there's something of that nature.
No, I'm just thinking if there's other uses that we want, especially north of the cemetery there. I mean, I think we want to, if,
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. If we need it for anything, and we've done that for hangar development up north,
yeah,
you know, we've taken out parcels the same when UPS and
that
FedEx
should
went
be in
in.
all of our
We took
agreements.
that. It is, yes. Yeah, we have the right to take it back at
So
any
even
time.
with Beaton Farms, that's in our agreement.
Correct. Same with the Park District, but you don't want to upset the soccer moms. It's soccer today, it's ours tomorrow. Yep, that's all in there.
I
Dr.
should abstain perhaps, but otherwise I would be moving for approval. I think this is a good deal. It's a short-term contract.
Well, that and the fact that, you know, you gotta mobilize equipment, and it's not very fun to mobilize equipment around the city for farm purposes.
That's part of the
So-
reason why Brandon didn't want to renew it is the hassle with the police department when they're moving heavy equipment through town on University and in different areas. The other thing is that we restrict, there's no corn allowed inside the fence. That's a restriction after the Sioux City crash with United Airlines. There's no corn. And we don't allow sunflowers anywhere on the property. That's a wildlife hazard management thing with the USD and the FAA. So there are some restrictions which, you know, they'd love to do corn and soybeans all over the place, but we don't allow it.
So is there a motion to approve?
Have we ever gotten a estimate on the value of cropland or what we should be renting for? I'm just like, we don't know. I don't know. I have no idea what it's worth.
It's every,
I mean, I would,
yeah.
for, you know, whatever, a few dollars, it might be good having a third party just give us, what's,
I believe the NDSU survey does land value on cash rent.
well, they do it by the county. That's not really,
Yeah,
I'll try and obtain whatever information I can get from the extension service. Just as an FYI,
you know, at the same time, I understand how difficult it is in this land around Fargo to get someone to farm it too. A lot of that stuff, you don't even charge rent to get them to farm it. So I guess that'd be my only question. If the board thinks we should have a review, I mean, I'm totally fine extending it for 2025, but maybe in the course of the next year, we get evaluation on it.
I know that they have spent quite a bit of time doing some ditching up there. Some of the areas, when the flood levee went through, it impacted them up by the city lagoons. And then when they came through with the pipeline out for the soybean plant here a year or so ago, it impacted it. So they're spending a lot of time with drainage. So, but they've been working with the city and the engineering company to try to improve that. They would like the land. I mean, there was an offer a few years ago for them to tile the land in exchange for like a 10-year agreement. They would pay for all the tiling, which I think would be awesome to really increase the productivity of that farmland. But
Did we do that or we didn't do that?
we didn't.
Yeah, I think there's some opportunities there to probably make some sense that we should, rather than just boom and do this, because I think with that land tiled up there, A, it'll get planted, B, it's gonna be worth more. In 10 years, if we don't develop it, it'll be worth quite a bit more per acre. So it might be a good idea to have them tile it, work out an agreement where it does get planted. I mean, that just adds to the value.
It does.
Shouldn't have a real estate guy on the board.
But I'd recommend the 3-year approval if that's what you desire. We still have the opportunities to do the tiling and the other things to get proposals from them for tiling if so desired.
Could we just leave this on the agenda? Would you mind? I think we're missing an opportunity here to, one, verify what the rent should be, and two, is there a way to add value to this? Or we can,
It's going to be hard for someone to discount the access issues because you're on city streets and the coordination you do with the police department. It's also going to be hard for someone to.
I have no idea what we're charging per acre.
Okay. In their proposals, I guess. So right now, like on one parcel, they're paying 148 an acre, they're gonna go to 177.60, and another parcel that's 257 acres. The rent for the last 3 years has been 157, they're going to 188.40. Another parcel that was at $135 an acre, they're going to $162. Another parcel that's 51 acres, they're going from $157 to $188.40. So it's a 20% increase across the board on all these parcels.
I have no idea what the county average is, what it's worth, or.
Last I looked, it was around
So,
145.
Again, I'm just saying that at this point, I'm not comfortable with it.
I would say the county average would, for what this property is and the way they have to transport, because they can't drive a tractor down the city street. It has to be trailered, as far as I know.
Escorted or permitted.
And they, like combines, you're gonna have to trailer them, take the header off. That's a lot of expense and time for a farmer to have to do that. So the county averages, I don't think could even be allocated to this kind of.
Well, I would say my
farming.
main concern here is none of that acreage up there is planted this year. Because I think because they had other crops they wanted to plant first, and this got too late. 2, tiling would be a great idea to do that long term, because increase the value and increase the rent we get. So I think we ought to look at that before we just approve this at this point. I mean, I have no problem with the NDSU piece of it.
Is there any reason we can't delay this a couple of weeks?
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman, you might also look at CRP, Conservation Preserve Program. That's where you kind of idle the land and it doesn't get much activity and they pay you to take it out of service. It's just what, I don't know if it would make sense up here or not, but it
We might have a couple parcels that might qualify, but most of it is too productive where it wouldn't qualify for a program. We do a bunch of CRP on our farm. Some qualifies, some doesn't, but it's all based on the soil type.
So I would do 2 things. Don't need to make a motion, but I think one is I would contact, independent farmland appraiser, have him look and give us a recommendation on values or rental values. And then 2, I'd go back to Broughton and say, could you give us a proposal on tiling this land? What would that look like?
Probably would tile the land outside the fence north, where we know inside the fence is subject to development, so we probably wouldn't tile that, but certainly outside the fence, we certainly would.
Yeah.
I don't know, Rick, do you know any farm appraisers? Since you're
If it were me and I were looking for comps in what Rick was talking about, look at some of the other people that have farmland within the city. So I would be talking to Fargo Public Schools. I would talk to Keith Ernst with the Hector Family Trust with their land down south off of 52nd. Trying to think of some of the, probably Tyler Brandt with some of the land that they have within the city limits that they lease out to farmers. Find out what their rates are and, just
Who
see.
would you hire for an appraiser if you're going to have someone give you an appraisal?
I think you could just go to appraisal services or someone like that, but their scope is going to be this big. I don't know if you need to be that big. I think you can narrow it down and find your comps by making a couple of phone calls. And that should get the information you're looking for. Because, within the city limits, like you say, there's a fine number of landowners that are leasing back to farmers. And I think the ones that I just mentioned are probably the bigger ones that I know of. So
you do that for another cup of coffee and a Subway coupon?
Do what now?
Another cup of coffee and a Subway coupon?
Sure, why not?
Well, I think this is important. We don't know what farmland values are. Rent should be.
Okay, so what are your wishes?
Well, let's get someone to give us a valuation on these. And
So you want to table this
Do you want to make a motion?
to the next meeting after we find out this information, or what do you want to do?
I mean, I would say let's get an estimate on farmland rental rates and talk to appraiser or talk to whomever, but let's get some comps that we can look at And then number two is I'd go to Broughton and ask if they could give a proposal to tile the land, what that would look like.
We'll see if we
Okay,
And get that information, we can take this up in a couple weeks.
so you want to table this for now till next meeting?
you know, I don't know if the tile companies can respond that quick for them to get a
We'll
quote.
find out.
No. We'll try friendly amendment.
You're not really
I didn't
looking.
make a motion.
Oh, okay. I think what we're interested in is comps, not rental rates.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's two things. I mean, the rental rate is based on the value of the land. That's normally what an appraisal does, but I think their appraisers can give you, I mean, all the trust departments, all the banks, they have appraisers that will set the rental value for their clients for land.
But the X factor is within the city.
Sure, sure.
That's a major X factor.
Yeah. Well, I would hire appraisal services to give us an estimate, quite frankly, on comps and rent. And then I think from a board standpoint, we've covered that piece.
Is that a motion?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would move that we would hire an appraiser to give us a value on our cropland, what the rental rate should be. And that would be, yeah.
Second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Rashani.
No.
Berg.
Aye.
Osriff.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Capitan.
No. Okay, number 13, old business.
The old business. I know you chatted with Tom about the economic impact, which was distributed yesterday at the city commission meeting, as far as that is that.
Yeah, I think that was one thing we talked about several months ago is getting that updated because the last was 2015. I think yesterday was a good example of not trying to make a case for work. I think we're going to need that for the state as well. So, I mean, I think I heard some comments yesterday that like, what do you mean there's 3,300 jobs created by the airport? So I think we need to make sure that that information is accurate, and so when we're presenting our case, we have that economic benefit. I mean, the only other thing I had on old business was the Clear Channel. You know, that contract goes 10 years and it extends automatically for 5 years without notice. And so I talked about giving them that notice now so it doesn't. But I think in light of what they presented here, we should just not do that at this point. See where we end up.
On the Clear Channel topic, I mean, we do have an attorney on staff. We've got Stacy, and I think that it may be appropriate for her to put a couple of counter offers together.
I think we need to get Brandon's plan first on how we're going to do this, because we can't approve where we're going to have Clear Channel signage until we know where this whole, how the interior is going to look.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure we know what we want Clear Channel to do. I'm not sure who's going to go out and get sponsorships. So part of this whole Clear Channel debate is whether or not we get sponsorships or not, and what we're going to be charging those sponsorships. So I think we need to kind of figure that piece out. And I don't have the answer. But I think Brandon mostly give us this back, right? And then we'll go from there.
Potentially, we could be doubling the advertising space that's available. And even more so if you consider the parking route. Sure. This contract. And so to me, it's a material change to the contract. And even negotiation, and I really am sorry that we did do the extension at the time we did and not look at the expansion area. But the revenue share, given the larger volume, would be considerably different. But we do have to deal with the legal contract. You know, he was talking about 675,000 sort of as their revenue anticipated through the contract. Ours would be much less than that, 30% of it. So I think it would be a good idea to kind of figure out what that looks like. But how many additional advertising spaces? What's that do with the entire contract? So, and I guess it is in our court. They said, "Here's our offer. Come back."
I think what they proposed for sponsorship is not feasible with our current staff structure. I don't think that we should burden our staff with going out and finding sponsors and advertisers and doing all the contracts. I mean, that's a lot unless we have an in-house marketing person.
Anything further?
So,
If not, entertain a motion to adjourn. So move.
Okay.
Second, motion to adjourn.